Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our panel discussion on justice impacted women entrepreneurs. Today, we have gathered a group of remarkable women who have overcome adversity and used their experience to build successful businesses. This month, Women's History Month, is about women who empower women. And that is exactly what this panel is about. For those who don't know me, I'm Dr. Topeka K. Sam, the founder and CEO of the Ladies of Hope Ministries, whose epic vision is to end poverty and incarceration of women and girls globally. But outside of that, I'm also the CEO and president of TKS Ventures LLC, Epic Financial PB LLC, Faces and Voices Inc., amongst many, many other things. But these women today that we'll be speaking to have faced challenges such as incarceration, domestic violence, and other forms of trauma. Yet they have persevered and are now thriving entrepreneurs. Through their hard work and determination, these sisters have not only built successful businesses, but have also become inspiring role models and advocates for other justice impacted women. They're breaking down barriers and challenging societal stereotypes about who can be an entrepreneur. Today, we will hear from each of these sisters about their experiences, the challenges they have faced, and now how they have overcome them. We will also discuss the importance of supporting justice impacted women entrepreneurs and creating opportunities for them to succeed. I hope that our discussion today will inspire and empower others who have faced similar challenges to pursue their entrepreneurial dreams. Thank you all for joining us today. And I will now give you a little brief bio on all of our incredible entrepreneurs. Mary K. Harsh Rogers is a certified public accountant and certified government finance officer, a CPA, and that's a CGFM, and was the founding president of her local YMCA, which led her into government and public service. She's also a Faces of Women in Prison 2022 graduate. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you.
Marsha King is the Chief Executive Officer of M2K Supportive Services and 13th Liberation Village. M2K's mission is to provide an effective plethora of prison services to incarcerated people and their loved ones, such as consulting on the First Step Act passed in 2018, criminal case law review, Second Chance Act, and early termination of supervised release. She is also a FOWI 2022 graduate. Welcome. Nequasia Pollard is an advocate, activist, director, and direct service provider. She has been deeply involved in movements for social justice, drawing upon her own experience, 15 years of incarceration in a women's correctional facility at the age of 19 and being pregnant on Rikers Island. She's the founder and executive director of Pure Legacy, an organization that serves as a haven of healing for females ages 16 to 24 who have experienced trauma, as a direct result of the criminal justice system and or aging out of foster care and facing homelessness. She also is a FOWI 2021 graduate. Welcome to Quasia.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
And, and we will be later joined by Dr. Jamila T. Davis, who's an award-winning author, motivational educator, community activist, and entrepreneur, and CEO of Black Women Lives Matter and founder of All News Black Women. And so, to start this conversation and to really just hone in on what the problem is and why we're here, justice impacted women face numerous barriers to employment and economic stability, including limited access to education, housing, and financial resources, discrimination, and stigma. Entrepreneurship provides justice impacted women with a unique opportunity to build a business and create a sustainable income stream that can support themselves and their families. It also allows them to exercise autonomy, take control of their lives, and build a positive identity. So, what we'll be talking about today is around entrepreneurship, justice impacted women specifically, and how these pathways help us in creating these opportunities, not only for ourselves, for our sisterhood, but for our own families. And so, just to highlight breaking down stigma and stereotypes, we're going to be discussing the stereotypes and stigmas that female entrepreneurs who are justice impacted face and explore ways in which we break down these barriers and change public perception. So, Naquasia, for you, my first question is what do you believe entrepreneurship or how can it play in creating social and economic justice, particularly for justice impacted individuals?
Thank you, Topeka. Thank you, Lalone, for this opportunity. Um, what's so crazy? My Upon my release of leaving the correctional facility, the justice impacted space, I was privileged enough to work at the Loan, where I was introduced about being an entrepreneur. Um, you know, Women in my family we would just work. They were just workers. No one owned their own. So when I got exposed to different ways of how to maintain an income and how to sustain in this community being directly impacted. So I created Pure Legacy. I just thought that, we are not in enough spaces and not at the table, right? So I was able to create my own table, to have other people come and we eat together and grow together, so that are women that are justice impacted, or young women that are justice impacted. I just felt that it was just an opportunity to give other women the same opportunity that was given to me upon my release.
Thank you, Naquasia. I mean, I think I've been in these conversations over the last few days, and everyone keeps talking about representation matters, right? That it's so critical that we are seeing ourselves in places. And when I say ourselves, it's not even those of us who actually lived in a prison, but just seeing women, to see women in leadership roles, period, to understand that we can also do and be. I think it's critical to understanding that you don't have to come out of prison and just go get a job, just to do something, right? Because you feel like your probation officer is on your neck
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, you got to get a job, you got to get a job. And yet, you're going to work at a local store, which, obviously those of us who are entrepreneurs, we need people to also work for us too in order to have sustainable businesses. But often it isn't fulfilling, right? And so, for me, I was blessed to be able to see entrepreneurship my entire life. That's what my parents did. And they taught us that, entrepreneurship was a way to financial freedom. And so for me, even when I realized in retrospect that when I was younger, I would work for other people because it was easy, one, and it was something that it felt like was stable for me. I knew that every 2 weeks a check was coming in, I had my benefits and I didn't have to worry about anything, but I would be bored, because I would always excel quickly. I would just keep moving and growing in that role. And I would usually cap out of whatever it was that I was doing because there was nowhere else for me to grow to, which is why I think when you have the ability to be creative and create opportunities, not for yourself, but also through other people, through entrepreneurship, it helps you to continue to grow and innovate and do other things, not only for yourself and your community. And so, Marsha, in that point, what are your future goals and aspirations for your business? And how do you plan to continue to grow and succeed as a justice impacted entrepreneur?
Thank you, Tabika, for this opportunity. And my future goals and aspirations for M2K and 13 Liberation Nonprofit Organization is to begin to expand outside of the local area that I'm in. Currently, I'm in Virginia, and in being here and being a former um, incarcerated in federal prison, one thing that I've noticed here in creating the resources are that the resources are really not available mostly to people that are formerly incarcerated in federal prison. When I came out of prison, the first year was one of the hardest times that I had, which was one of the reasons why I created 13 Liberation and M2K. Because one important thing is I had a white collar crime. So in every interview, I wasn't hired.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to create something to be able to have some type of foundation to create for myself and for my daughter. So, in that, my future goals are to continue to expand outside of Virginia in other areas so that other people, such as myself, especially mothers, will have an opportunity to be able to come out to have someone that's been just as impacted, just like them, and know what are the obstacles that they are facing so I can help them create a foundation to be able to obtain their child back and to already have whatever resources they need as far as a job, financial status, and just whatever it is that they need to be able to start to transition back to society. Um, my goals are to be able to hire more justice impacted individuals. I have the honor of being an intern at dream.org. And one of the things that stuck out to me the most was I didn't know that I was among so many justice impacted people. And it created really almost a home for me where I felt comfortable that if I was experiencing some kind of trauma, that I had people that understood where that trauma came from and I was able to have those conversations. I want to be able to create that environment for others, such as myself, that they can come home and come work for me. And you see, because when people see me, they be like, I can't tell that you ever went to prison. So, what does a person that have gone to prison actually look like? So, in being a part of that organization as my internship, I was able to see people that are creating legislature, pushing laws, and different things like that. And I want to be able to create the same exact thing for uh, women, especially because I think that women, we are not out in the public or the face of entrepreneurship the way that we should, and we're not represented a lot as far as justice impacted.
Mhm.
So I want to be able to create that for a lot of justice impacted women mostly, but I want to be able to create for all as well. So those are my future goals, and that's where I see myself growing in the future.
Well, thank you so much for so eloquently articulating how you see yourself and why it is so important again around representation and building community in spaces. You know, it's so often when you come home, you don't have that community, right? Like, because you don't know. You don't know if you want people to know where you've been because of the biases. And then if you don't tell them, you know, what type of discrimination that's going to happen because they're saying you're not being honest. So it's like a double edged sword. And I remember when I came home, and I mean, I've always had a great support network, but I would share with my friends, you know, some of the things that I was going through with probation and parole, and they couldn't understand. They would just be like, you should just be grateful that you're home. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't even understand the injustices that are happening. Like, and so it wasn't until I began to build community with other formerly incarcerated sisters that I would have somebody to talk to that could say, yes, I went through this also. And when I would find gaps, then I wanted to fill them, right? Because I was like, all right, well, if I experienced something and I didn't hear anybody else talking about it, how could I create something that would build community for other sisters? So that was a really, really great point. And I heard you talking about, you know, working and seeing previously incarcerated work on legislation and other ways. And Mary Kay, you are considering running for office. And so, can you also talk to me about that experience and what is it like being a justice impacted woman and running for office?
Well, first off, in my other life, and part of the reason why I too have a white collar crime and was part of it, and still am, obviously, part of the federal unjust justice system, as I like to refer to it, was because I was in politics. And actually, one of my signatures got used for what is purported to be a bank loan and or a lease, although there's no evidence that ever happened. Um, and so then that took me from a very high profile position. I mean, I was even president of the Ohio Government Finance Officers Association. So I was known throughout the state. I did things nationally also. And all of a sudden, all that just goes away. Everybody looks at you like, you know, you've stolen tons of money and you've done all kind of horrible things. And obviously everybody can Google your name and they can find you. and that, and but I know I did a good job serving my community, the citizens of the county. So for me now, I feel like the only way that we can really get change, because we've gone to different organizations, we talked to them. Topeka, you've been instrumental in that, and they all act like they care. They all act like they're going to help us and do things, but I don't think they understand what really happens when you go through all this to you. And so I don't feel that other people that are in elected positions, unless they've gone through this, can really represent us the way that we all need to be represented. So that's where my calling is. I cannot run for office in my county, but I can run for federal office in my state. So therefore,
Right.
I have concluded that I guess I need to look at running for Congress, and that's the direction I'm heading at this point. So, and actually, I'm getting a lot of great feedback from the people that know me.
Good.
I'm a survivor, like all of you here. I mean, we've survived this, and we've come through it, and we want to help others. And I know myself and Topeka. I mean, not only do we want to help others, but we want to make sure that what happened to us does not happen to other people. So that's why I guess I've decided that one of us need to step forward. And some of my friends, they have concerns. They're like, oh my gosh, you're going to go through it, all that stuff's going to be all over again. And I said, you know what, I've gotten through it, I've come to the other side. I'm okay if they want to bring that up, because I can say, you know
Right.
what, guys, I made it through. And
That's right.
that's more than most of the people right now we have in public office can say. So, and I'm going to take what it was a negative time in my life and turn it into a positive, because it has become a very positive experience. I mean, look, I wouldn't have met all of you and really all the other great women and men that I have met. And actually, with what I'm doing right now for work is mostly accounting and consulting type work. But I have actually a couple of people that have joined my team that have been basically through the same things. And so that makes me feel good. I know when I got out of prison and I tried to go get a job, because yes, your probation officer is on you like anything to go get a job. Um, you'd go into places. Of course, if they Googled your name, it was like, oh my God, the nerve of you to come in here and even ask to come work for us. I mean, I can't begin to tell you how many times I went through that. The names and that I got called during those times was just absolutely appalling. And then also people think, here you are with all your experience, that they're going to hire you for some measly little salary, right? And take advantage of your knowledge and the things that you do know, and kind of use you. And I know for the rest of us, we all know that we're better than that. We're a better person than that. We deserve better. And so that's what I've done with other people. I've been working, and they're all not here tonight, but obviously to help bring success in that to other women just like us. And we do have a few men in the group too. So
we,
we had to
we,
throw them in just,
we,
just so
we can't forget our brothers, which
yeah,
is
that's
true.
right.
We cannot forget our brothers. However, this is Women's History Month, and we are talking about women empowering women. So, it's so funny because often people will also say to me, like, why you don't help guys? And, I said, well, we do. For every woman or for every man that is incarcerated, there's actually a woman who is incarcerated at home with them. And so, which allowed me to think through how we were expanding on our work, that it wasn't just about those of us who actually lived in a prison, but it was also around our loved ones who were connected and impacted by the trauma that was experienced through the whole carceral system. And so I just think it's funny that, for whatever reason, we always feel like, oh no. But yeah, shout out to our guys. It's important. We love you. And understand that you all are going through the same, barriers that we do when it comes to trying to find employment and opportunity, which is why entrepreneurship is so critical. And it's not just in, the space of nonprofit. Often, we think that that is the area that will accept us, or because of our experience, that's where we need to land, right? Because it is supportive. But also, you know, I've heard everyone on the call talking about how they've consulted on other projects. You know, for me, having consulted for corporations, and not even just around criminal justice, around building a business. And what does that look like? And so our skill sets are transferable. And while you can create, you know, a living for yourself doing that, you can also build brands and tech companies and anything that you want to do. So, you know, I often tell people don't box yourself into thinking that, you know, social services is the only work that will take us, because it's not, nor is it the only thing that is necessary. However, there are many opportunities in other places. I think it is just starting for what you're most passionate about. And, you know, oddly, most of us are passionate about trying to help sisters and brothers do not go through the same experiences that we did at one time or another. And so I see that Dr. Jamila Davis has joined us. Uh,
Hello,
Hello.
hello.
Thank you for
See some
joining.
familiar faces. Hi, everyone. Hey,
Glad to see
Martha.
you.
So I did your introduction earlier, Dr.
I was
Davis.
on. I was on, but I wasn't on, right? So
Okay.
again, this life of entrepreneurship, right? It gets to be a lot sometimes, going from place to place to place to place. But definitely, I'm so happy about this forum because I know some people are on that want to get some information that can be life changing, and I'm hoping that we're going to be able to drop some gems tonight to be able to give it to them.
Right. So we're going to, well, we've already had a good conversation about, you know, why entrepreneurship is important, you know, the pathways on with the barriers that led people to entrepreneurship, why, you know, continuing to get doors closed in your face, continuing to be discriminated against. It's like, why do I have to keep going through this for other people when I might as well build and create my own? And so, entrepreneurship, as we know, allows justice impacted women to leverage their unique skills, as I mentioned, which are transferable, and experiences and perspectives to create innovative solutions to problems in our communities. By starting businesses, we can contribute to our local economy, create jobs, and provide services that meet unmet needs. And so, for you, Dr. Davis, can you talk about what type of businesses you have and what was the process in obtaining capital to start
Okay, so what kind of businesses don't I have? I think we got to go over there first. Right now, I'm an educational consultant, right? So I have my own firm whereby what we do is create curriculum and programs, and we put them in local schools. Now, with the help of Topeka, we're also going to be putting the curriculum in prison. So basically, I started in prison. I was the recreation clerk at Danbury Federal Prison Camp. And I guess God sometimes he just has us different places. And in that space, I helped to create programs for women while incarcerated. So I took that same skill. So we're going to talk about transferable skills, right? So that was a skill I learned in prison and I transferred it to the need on the outside. And I became first a mentor. So actually a principal slid in my DM one day and was like, listen, I want you to come talk to my students. And I came and spoke to her students and she was like, you know, you could get paid for this. I'm like, okay. So I'm thinking, you know, I'm gonna get a couple $100 or something. I don't really know what I'm going to get. And I remember the first check that she cut me was $5,000. And I was like, oh, okay, I gotta take this serious. This is gonna be a path I want to go on, right? So from getting that check, and she's actually my friend to this day, she helped to change my life because one thing she showed me is that purpose and finances can line up. And we often don't think that. One of the things that I was like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, anybody that knows my story, I went to prison for a $30 million bank fraud case, right? So I was always somebody that got to the bag. But the problem was I got there the wrong way. And the wrong way cost me a decade of my life, right? So this time I was determined that I didn't want to go back the wrong way. So I had to get this thing right. I had to do it the right way. So what I learned, guys, is that if you stay in alignment with your purpose, and your purpose is the very thing that God created you to do on this earth, even if the money is not there, but you stay on task, the money is going to come. And that's inevitably what happened with me. I was out, I was with Yandy Smith. She's one of my friends, reality star. She had a nonprofit organization, and I was just kind of donating my time for free, working with the girls there in her organization. And I loved it. It brought me so much joy because I realized that I went left during my high school years, right? So I said, if I could touch people during this time and make sure that there are no more young Jamillas that go the path that I went, then my purpose would be served. So I started for free, and then the checks started coming in, and the checks started coming in, and the checks started coming in. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just saying this tonight to give somebody hope, right? So I've set up a couple of educational businesses since I came home, and I've made 7 figures with both of those businesses. So there's contracts out there, right? So it started in schools, and me being a credible messenger, right? I want to talk to somebody who's hiding behind the wall and doesn't want anybody to know who you are, right? I want you to know when you stand out, baby, you stand out and you stand up. So what happens is I come into places and I reach folks that other people can't reach. They principals has been trying to reach them. The people with the 10 degrees have been trying to reach them, and they can't reach them. But guess who could reach them, right? So I pull up as myself and I say, listen, this is what I did. These were my mistakes, and this is what happened. And the kids are amped to like talk to me. So I went from getting 1 school contract to 10 school contracts to, now I'm being hired by mayors. I'm in several different cities. So I'm contracted by several different mayors, senators, all kind of different people, superintendents. And I'm sorry, I was just leaving an event from a superintendent that asked me to come in tonight to do a community event. So I come in, I do community events, and I help to engage people with information, and I give them information that helps transform communities. And one of the key things I teach is entrepreneurship. So I have teen entrepreneurship programs in schools throughout the country, and my teens make money now. I teach them how to take nothing and turn it into something. And I hope that's some of what we're going to be talking about today. So that is one of my businesses. I'm also the founder of Black Women's Lives Matter. Online, we have about 230,000 followers. I am a product of the trauma to prison pipeline, often which deals with Black women and girls. We go through things, and then it causes us to act out, and then people think we crazy, but we really not crazy. We just had some trauma, and if we don't get that trauma resolved, it continues. So I work now with Black women, particularly in that field. We create resources, awareness. We're building a whole team around that nationally. And then I also created All News Black Women because I feel like our stories are not told, right? So oftentimes we have no one to look up to sometimes that look like us, that come directly from where we come from, but we don't know about them. So
Mhm.
I talk about the stories of Black women. I do that. And then I also have an apparel company. So notice niches, right? Niche market. So when you start working in your niche market, you can kind of create multiple streams of income, which I believe in, right? So I went from talking about Black women and doing a platform to actually selling apparel for Black women. And this past holiday season, that business, my apparel company, just grossed a little over $1 million in sales. So that again is just the power of knowing that we have the power to do something. It's just a choice of ours to decide what we're going to do, and let nothing or no one, and definitely not our past, stand in the way of us getting to it.
Thank you, Dr. Tavis. So what I would say is what you shared was you took your passion and your purpose, and then you were able to utilize that to monetize. And while you did not start out with a check, right? Or how people say, I got to do this for the bag. I got to do this because of this. So that wasn't the case. You started out by using your voice, by doing what was passionate, by mentoring young girls, by finding your niche. And once you were able to do that, then the money started coming in. And
Absolutely.
so I think that is a good message for everyone. And I think everyone up here could probably relate to that. That often, and I said, had a conversation with someone yesterday about this, that my relationship to money had changed over time, because at one point in my life, I was chasing paper and not purpose. And so when I end up coming home, I was so away from saying, I can't, like, anything that was reminiscent of getting a bunch of money to me was, it would lead me into another path until I quickly realized, wait a minute, I'm working. I'm building an organization. I'm working. This is time consuming. It's a lot of travel. It's a lot of everything. And that I should be compensated for
Amen.
the work that I am doing. And then it was, well, how do you value your compensation? And to your point, I didn't know either, right? Like, it was first, I was talking for free. Then somebody would give me $100. Then somebody was like, no, I don't pay less than $500. Then somebody was like, here's $1,000. And then as I started research, I'm like, wait, people get paid $20,000 just to stand somewhere for an
Absolutely.
hour? And I'm like, well, why shouldn't I want the same thing for myself? If this is a whole industry, right?
Mhm.
And that if I'm sharing my experience and the crowd they're tuned in and they're crying, and the person next to me is talking about whatever it is from their expertise and nobody's really paying attention, then why are they getting supported by getting, compensated and I'm not? And so as you begin to understand what your value is and your value add into whatever space that you're in, I think that it is critical that we begin to put a price to our service. And that's not just even sharing your story and your experience. It's also how you're consulting on these projects,
Mhm.
how you're advising. So often there are people who will, boards. People, I know people who sit on corporate boards who make seven figures just sitting on boards. And so it's like, that's because they're lending their expertise in order to be able to help to support and raise and build this next business or organization. And so, Naquasia, we talked a little bit about mentorship and peers, and you talked about how you didn't have an opportunity to see that growing up until you did. So, can you talk about how can women entrepreneurs who are justice impacted build and maintain these supportive relationships in mentorship, peers, and allies, and how you do that with the young women that you serve through Pure Legacy?
That's a very good question. You know, well, even when I was in Bedford Hills, I had a mentor, right? They invested in me. They invested in my leadership and development. Even when I was going to college and I obtained both my degrees, it was just a space where I was like, okay, I can do this. Okay, you doing that for me? You invested in me? You got in me? That's what I want to do. And when I came home, I just seen the disconnect between the community and young people, and especially girls. I was that 17-year-old girl walking the streets of Brooklyn broken. I was that young girl that incarcerated when, and in America, in this society, they incarcerate trauma. They don't
Mhm.
never address the
Mhm.
root problem. I was raped and molested. Like, they don't know about them things, but my
Mhm.
outlet was school. So that's why I was able to excel. I have my high school diploma. When I went to prison, I went for both my degrees, so because I had people that invested in me, it was a community. So when I come home and I seen the disconnect, I'm like, all right, I got to do something. And then I had two mentors, you
That's what's
know,
up.
which was super dope. Um, and I just felt like, okay, this is what I want to do. And then one day I gave one of my mentors a call. I was like, I want to mentor young girls and I want my own nonprofit. And are you going to help me? And the person said yes. Right. And they're still there sitting on my board today. I created Pure Legacy with just a dream. It was a thought. My goal when I came home, I wanted my own construction company and I wanted to flip houses, go into real estate. Being in the nonprofit sector was not in my train of thought. However, Allah had a different plan for me, and I took that plan. And that is my life purpose. After I thank Allah and I get up in the morning, it's nothing. I'm like, what? I gotta call such and such. I gotta make sure she good. Like, I invest in these young girls. Nobody invested in me the way I needed to. I
Love it.
wouldn't have seen a prison cell if somebody took
Mhm.
the time to invest in me or even ask me, how can I help you heal from your trauma?
Mhm.
That's dope.
One of the things that that's funny because I had a team meeting today. I was like, why are you here at Pure Legacy? Why are you here? And then I asked, why do you stay? It's the reason why do you want to invest in the girl? They ain't your child. And majority of my staff is young. Three of the girls that's on my staff went through the program.
What's up?
Went through all my programs, and we building more programs. We bring in a STEM program where girls, with 28% of women in that sector is only 28% of women that's in the STEM sector. Only 5% is girls of color. Nobody nurtured me being a scientist. I'm a scientist on the low. Nobody ain't know that. You understand what I'm saying? So I am. I took my chemistry regents diploma. I ain't even regents test. I didn't even finish. I got a 75. I walked out. I was like, it's boring and I'm leaving. Right? So if I take the time to invest in a young woman and it leads her to create her own business in drones, that's the new wave now. People are flying drones. Corporate companies are flying drones. When a girl finished the program and she could get APEX certified, she could be certified to fly drones, code them, build them, and whatever she wants to do with them, right? And she's able to go into her community and invest in it. My goal is to create a new Black Wall Street 2.0 with young women entrepreneurs. What do you like? I'm about to have an all girls pop-up shop, right? With that, all girls bringing what you selling? Okay, how you gonna make your money? All right, what's your plan in the next 5 years? How you gonna make that grow? Or do you want your LLC? Like, these are the questions that we have to instill in our young women, and that nobody is doing. And it's just a different feel. And I'm me being creative and being who I am. I embrace that creativity. I always used to think I'm crazy. People don't think I'm a nerd, but I'm rough. So I don't know, to find my niche. And when I found my niche, I just took off and ran with it.
I love it.
Thank you, Naquasia. And that you have found. I'm so proud of you.
I have a question to can I ask a question? Where's your nonprofit at? Where do I'm so impressed by your story and your passion. I love it. Where are you located?
Yeah. I'm headquartered in Brooklyn. I'm expanding to Detroit and Atlanta this year, Florida and Cali once I sign the MOU.
That's what's up. So in Brooklyn, you're in school. Like, what districts are you in Brooklyn?
Brownsville.
I just left Brownsville. That's why I'm late. I actually just left Brownsville for some stuff. So again, collaboration, right? Over competition, right? So I would love
to collaborate. Let's do it.
Outside of here. And there's a couple things I was going to say to you, right? Because even in the nonprofit sector, and I tell this to Topeka all the time and to everyone, multiple streams of income. And I got to say that again, multiple streams of income. I want to share a story. I came home and I had all these contracts, right? And then remember COVID hit and then everything froze up, right? And I almost panicked because I'm like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like, they was like, you can't go back into the schools no more. Nobody's doing nothing. So there's no money coming in. And that's when I started my clothing business because I realized, I'm like, wow, I didn't diversify, right? So I wasn't ready for when the drought came. I wasn't ready to really be able to level up. And what I did, and somebody's asking here, I was able to take like less than $500 and I was able to start my t-shirt company. And that's what I did. And I flipped that money. So I want to say to someone who's on, the people who ask, like, where do I get started? Let's say I don't have a mentor. I don't have a bunch of resources, right? You can literally start a business with $100. You can go on to Alibaba.com. And if you don't, somebody, if you could put it in the chat, it's ALIBABA, right? So that is the Chinese Amazon. So I take actually middle school students and elementary school students there. And the host put it in there. Let's go. Literally anything that you want to sell is on Alibaba for cheap. And I want to give you a story. So one of my first students who started, I gave her $100 and she literally bought on Alibaba phone cases And the phone cases she got on Alibaba was 79 cents a piece. And she was able to flip those phone cases for between $10 and $15, right? So the flip is crazy. So I even take young boys in the hood, and a lot of them is risking their life, right? They reading up with their $200 to go get crack, right? And they flip might be they 200 might go to 600 if they lucky, and it really probably won't do that. So I showed them how you could go on Alibaba with your $200, and if you got the skill set to sell, baby, let's sell something legit. Let's sell something that's going to keep you up out of jail. You can literally go find any product that you want that has the ability to give you the flip that you want to receive, and you could get it. And then just don't discount social media, y'all. Social media like officially changed my life. I mean, I was a little bit in a unique situation because I came home with like 50,000 followers. But from my social media, every TV show I've gotten, every, principal, I told you the principal slid in my DM. So selling and setting up your presence on social media, setting up your business on social media. It is crazy. Topeka, you remember you taught me about social, because I was on MySpace still. I was locked up for a minute. Topeka came in and she started telling me about Instagram and some other stuff. I was like, word, what's up? So I learned a lot of the stuff from some of the people who was outside. And then I literally flipped the game. So it's information and knowledge. And the way that you stay ahead of the game, y'all, you got to be the best out there that you could possibly be. We already got, something against us that people try to hold against us, right? So you got to be the best version of you that you could possibly be. And when you the best, I don't care where you come from. I don't care about your past. People can't deny what's the best. And what does that require? Research, reading, you know what I'm saying? Since I used to be like you, I used to didn't like people to know that I was kind of, smart. So I was always in the IGC program. So I had to have the biggest earrings and the biggest Fendi bag to throw them off, to let them know I still had swag. But the truth of the matter is, it's going to be our intellect that takes us to the next level. I'm on Audible.
Absolutely.
Coming here, I'm reading my books on purpose. You got to study. So if you want to get ahead of the trends and you want to know anything about entrepreneurship, get some books on entrepreneurship. Go on YouTube, look at it and try. Don't just think about it, jump yourself in. That's why I said get a product. Just see what it would be like to set up your own online store and see how you could flip that bread. And then we're here as a team. We're working with the Loom, and folks are here to be mentors to folks that don't have mentors, to give you more game about how you can get your own business started.
That's right. Thank you, Jamila. I'm laughing because I'm like, yeah, I remember that conversation about social media. And with all of that both of you just shared, we talk about the grind and the hustle and everything that you do, but it also requires some mindfulness and self-care, right? And because we don't do it. When you are grinding and you are hustling and you are moving and you are building, and I know those of us whose parents have been entrepreneurs, we've seen them do it, right? Like you will run yourself sick. And I think that it is important that we are, especially those of us who've experienced extreme traumas throughout our life, that we are talking about the importance of self-care and mindfulness in this journey. And so, Marsha, can you talk about that importance in the entrepreneurial journey, what self-care and mindfulness is, and offer strategies of maintaining healthy work-life balance?
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to say at Alderson, and when I first got there, I don't know if she remember, she asked me, she was like, I always see you in email typing. What are you doing? And we were talking, and she was like, you're good at what you do, but she was like, you are so angry. And I don't know if she remembers, she gave me this book. It was called The Keys to Something, but it was a self-help book about affirmation, being positive, and everything. And she gave me a pair of shoes before she left, because we would always be emailing video together. And she was like, you can be as good as you are in law, because I was a law nerd. And that's all I did was help everybody. But she was like, if your spirit is not right and that anger, she was like, it's not going to be helpful to anybody. Get rid of the anger. So that was my journey to really my self-help. I started walking a lot and actually using that book that she gave me to start my positive affirmations. So that helped me with my anxiety when I was in prison. So then when I got out, I was okay. I was sleeping good in prison. And then I get out and I realize that I'm having worse anxiety
Mm,
out here than I had in prison. I'm getting the speaking engagements. Everybody wants to know about what happened when I was in prison, about the nonprofit organization that I had created, but I couldn't get my mind straight. So I went back to, okay, so what did I do in prison to help me? What did I do to get through it? Because I knew I didn't want to be medicated. I needed to keep going because I had to take care of myself and my daughter. So I went back to what helped me in prison. And what helped me in prison was meditation, going back to reading those
mhm,
books like The Power of Now, A New Earth,
Mhm.
taking those times, stepping away that when I feel overloaded, to step away for a day or two and take some time for myself, whether it was walking, meditation, prayer, going to church. I realized that I still had to make sure that no matter what, mentally and emotionally, that I was where I needed to be. And one important thing that I did when I was released from prison that I give a lot. I really like that the my judge always make mandatory here in Virginia is to get mental health.
mm,
I started counseling 2 weeks after I was released because I realized as excited that I was released 2 years early under the First Step Act, I was having a hard time transitioning.
mm,
And I didn't know why I was having such a hard time transitioning. So I did mental health for 13 months. And those 13 months and learning those tools and then combining it with people like Jamila and the other ladies that they were the Pick Panther uh, and she really did put on a lot of shows. But those things were really beneficial in me using those in combination to what I learned in counseling to really help me. And even today, when I get overwhelmed, I don't mind stepping away saying, let me take some time to meditate. And I always love chapter 3 in The Power of Now that talks about consciousness
mm,
and living in now and not going back to the past and worrying because a lot of people still do experience that trauma. I get into trauma sometimes just from a knock on the door. And I have to realize that the knock on the door that I got in 2000, June 30th, 2014, that changed my life, I'm not doing anything
Mhm.
to have that knock on the door to mean something. So I have to step away. I go to chapter 3, read on my
come on,
consciousness,
boo.
I take a moment and I meditate and I get back to work tomorrow. And that has been able to sustain me the last 3 years that I've been out of prison. That's been able to sustain me from not being able to have to go and be on any type of medication, but I'm able to function. And then I even had doing my internship working with Miss Ruby. She does her healing program. Her and I were talking, and I was talking to her about the trauma, and she was able to share some things with me from her healing program. As far as you're not back in prison anymore, you can be an advocate, freedom fighter, activist, whatever it is that you want to call yourself, and not live in that trauma. So those are things that I use to keep myself present and to keep away the anxiety. I haven't had an anxiety attack
Praise,
in almost 4 months.
praise.
And that may not seem like a long time to a lot of people, but that's a long time when you're not on
That is
medication
a
and
long
you're just
time.
using regular self-help.
Thank you so much. That was it. It's so funny. I laughed when you said about Jamila in the book because she gave me the new Jim Crow when I was inside, and that actually started my advocacy work. Like I knew that something needed to change, but when I read that book, then I had a clear understanding of what and why it needed to change. And so it goes back to understanding, researching, educating yourself. And I mean, let's face it, some people will go through the journey of getting your college education and getting your degrees. And that is great. But there are other ways that you can also educate yourself, like Jamila said, getting books on entrepreneurship, going to YouTube. YouTube is the largest platform of free
Mhm.
information that you can get anywhere in the world. And just as a fun fact, y'all, Alibaba is owned by Joe and Clara Wusai, who also own the Barclays Center, the New Jersey Nets,
I
and
didn't know that. Okay.
the New York Liberty, and who's also on the board of Reform Alliance, and who believe in social justice and work. And so, it gets kind of triggered a thought that, I want to reach out to have a conversation with them about.
You ready to get the partnership going?
Just thinking like, you know what, that's right. How about that? There's a way. So I'm going to have to
I
reach
love
out
you.
tomorrow regarding that. That
Because
just
we
triggered a
need
thought
it.
for
We
sure.
need
No, for sure.
we
But
need resources, and it could just start somewhere. If we could just get a little bit of helping hand, and I'm sorry, I know you ain't called me, but the spirit is so high in the room, and
no,
I'm looking at Martha, and I'm like, my goodness, I'm just watching how God elevated you, right? And I've been so far away from like incarcerated women, and I just gotta admit, like some of it was my own trauma. It's like I had to get away first and get myself together. But I'm so grateful for Topeka coming back to get me because I was gone. You know what I mean? I'm to the kids now. I'm to the kids, to the neighborhood. I really haven't been to my people. And Topeka, you don't know because I didn't get to speak to you today, but I went into the Hudson County Jail today. And for the first time, I ministered to like women in prison, like by their bunk beds. And I mean, I'm talking about we had a kumbaya and give away all kind of stuff and money and resources and stuff. And I know confirmation for me tonight is being on this call and seeing y'all and knowing we all have a little bit of something. But if we put our pool together, we could really help our people. And I love what Mary Kay has said. She said, if we don't do it, who else will? Who else is going to have the passion for our people, like our people, if they ain't never been through what we've been through? So I'm really grateful for this forum. I'm really grateful for all of y'all, and I'm hoping that we can stay in touch, Topeka, and that you can create something not only to deal with the trauma, because the trauma that you just talked about is a real thing that we never got any kind of tools from in prison to deal with. So that's one aspect of it, but also partnership and collaboration in entrepreneurship, mentorship, and support, whether it be starting an organization, whether it be starting your own business, plugging people into real, reliable resources that could be life-changing. So
absolutely.
I'm down with you on this work on how we can further this amongst our community.
For sure, for sure. And you said Mary Kay, which is where I was thinking I wanted to also bring in, and then I have a kind of a tie-in question because we're running out of time. This conversation can go on forever. Mary Kay, can you discuss that female entrepreneurs who are justice impacted? What kind of strategies can we use? And also, how, so often, I'm thinking about our sister Ivy Wolfturk, who often talks about how people automatically thought because she was a white woman that she didn't have any barriers, right? That she came home and people would just help her, or people would not help her because of that. That she kept saying, people would be like, oh, well, you're good. You were educated here and you come from here, that you'll be fine. And she would be like, well, I still have nothing to eat. I have nowhere to live, and I don't have a stove to cook on, cook things on. I didn't say it like she does, but that was the play. And to be a professional woman, to have worked in government, to be white, to all of these things, you too have explained that you have been discriminated against. I think
Well,
it is
absolutely.
important. I think it's important for people to understand that when it comes to just women, period, um, what is that, like, discrimination really doesn't have a color, one. But two, can you talk about some of the discrimination that you face personally, but yet how have you been able to overcome that, and which strategies would you provide to sisters who are wanting to start on their entrepreneurial journey?
Well, I have a couple little stories, but one thing for sure, every time I would go in for an interview and, I would get that, oh, we Googled you. Oh, the nerve of you to show up here. I mean, I still have one message saved on my phone, and that's from almost 10 years ago where I was just called all kind of horrific things by a person that I had interviewed at a business. But the thing that kept me going was, okay, I'm sorry, you missed a real opportunity, is how I looked at it for these people, and I wasn't going to let that define me and define who I was. Um, you uh, you brought up earlier about people not understanding. I did understand. I knew I wasn't going to make the kind of money I was making before. I was willing to step back and make less and that and gradually build myself up. So I accepted that going in. But I have a story. I had only been out of prison, but I refer to it as the funny farm. For a little less than a month, and I actually was in the store with my youngest daughter who's autistic, and I ran into a fellow elected official and I said, "Hey," I said, "how you doing?" And she's looking at me and she goes, "Do I know you?" And I was like, "What?" I go, "Yes, this is Kay. What are you saying?" And she goes,
Oh,
"Oh, I didn't recognize you." Now, I was only gone for 2 years, so come on, I didn't change that much. Maybe I was a little more buff, a little more fit, but I did not change that much in my appearance. Anyway, long story short, she said to me, and you'll find this interesting. She said, "We've passed a lot of legislation for people like you."
Mm.
I go, "People like me?" I think some of you have heard me tell this story. I go, "People like me? What are you talking about?" People like you, felons. We've passed a lot of legislation to help people like you." And
mm.
I looked at her and I said, and I won't say her name, but I said, I said, "Do you really think that many people in the state of Ohio are bad people?" Or I said, "Do you happen to think," because I think at the time, I think it was like 18% of the people in the state of Ohio had felonies. I said, "Do you really think that 18% of the people in the state of Ohio are felons? Or do you think that maybe you've passed too many laws that have made us felons?" And I
Wow.
turned around and I walked away. And you talk about like getting hit in the face by somebody that definitely should understand our paths and what we're going through. It was her. And yet she turned around and basically threw in my face that they've passed legislation to help people like me.
Wow.
So, um, that's part of what kept me going and inspired me. I thought, no, nope, you're not going to do this to me. I know that we are all better than this and we deserve better. We deserve a second chance. That's what our country is supposed to be about, is second chances. So, those are just some of the many stories I could go on and on about of really getting hit in the face. And there are people that just absolutely look at you when you walk into place, like the audacity of you to even show up here, you know. So and I've experienced all of it, but you know what? I'm a better person than that. And I just walk on and hold my head up because I know, just like all of you, that we are good people. So and that's
Absolutely.
what really keeps you going. And the other thing is I try to stay away from people that bring me down, that are negative, like when we did our thing back in August, I had a couple people say, "Why are you wasting time on that? This is never going to happen, blah blah blah." I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up that we're going to be able to make the changes. I refuse to give up. And guess what? I don't want to be around people like that either, that are telling me it's not going to happen, because I'm telling you it will. So,
Absolutely. And you are so right. And thank you for that point because people told, I laugh, people told me during the last administration, you cannot go in the White House. There's no way you can go in there now. It's going to ruin your political career. I'm like, well, who said I was running for office? But okay, you can't do this, you can't do that. And, as God would have it, from my work being recognized, I received the full pardon and I didn't apply. So when you really say the truth of the matter is, when you are true to whatever the vision is that you believe that God is guiding you in, and whether that is to change laws that is going to change lives, to make a living for yourself, and it is okay. I've had to, for the last probably several months, tell myself, to peak, it is okay to make money. It's okay, right?
Make
And it feels good because it's also liberating to understand that no, these systems that we have all been abused by have made us feel that being compensated for your worth is not right, and that we've been told for so long that we are unworthy, which led us through these paths, that now, while we have gotten our worthiness back and understand all the things that God has for us, it's fighting against these systems that feel that we should not still have what we work hard for and what we deserve. And so, as women, it is already difficult for us to begin to start businesses. What we do know is that as women, right, we are the fastest growing demographic of entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, nonprofit executives, but we are also the ones that get the least startup capital, the least investment capital, and the least money to sustain. But
Mm-hmm.
I think what we have heard throughout this conversation is that while there are so many challenges, the power comes within collaboration and within community. That when we are able to come together to put whatever those things are that we have aside and behind, I often laugh because I say we will forgive a man that has done so many things to
Yes.
keep taking them back and keep coming back, and it's
Yes.
okay, it's okay. He forgives, he apologizes, it's all right. But to our sister, we won't give her one shot, right? And, I think that it's so critical that we begin to extend the same grace to our sisters that we will a man, right? Or a
Right.
significant other or
Mhm.
partner, whatever it is,
Right.
the thing is, that we need to really think about that. And while, it saddens me that we're 8 o'clock and we have come to an end of this conversation, I just want to offer, last words to everyone. Obviously, we're all connected on here. Information has been put in the chat. We'll also follow up when we post this news through our newsletter with links and how you can get in contact with all the different sisters. But as we've mentioned, justice impacted women face numerous challenges when re-entering society, period. These challenges can be daunting, but with the right resources and support, we're going to underscore that, we can overcome them and build fulfilling lives, right? It is
Yes.
critical that we provide each other within our sisterhood and within other justice impacted communities with the help that we need to reintegrate into our communities and live productive, healthy lives. The reason why people go back to prison, the recidivism rates are high, is because these doors are shut. Because we are told we have the audacity to apply here. Because how should we think that we should live here? Or who said that we should start a business, right? Who do we think we are? We know that we are children of God. We know that we have paid our debt to society. And what we do know is that we also have the
Yes.
ability to grow, to build, to dream, and to live the life that we feel worthy and necessary of. And for some, that might look like $50,000. For some, it might look like $50 million. But whatever it is, that we should be able to have the support to be able to give and build into our respective communities in order to provide those opportunities for each other. So, with probably, I would say 2 minutes, can each of you give me some final words and thoughts around the conversation? And what is your social handle so people know how to get in contact with you?
I'll start. So thank you, Topeka. Thank you, Lalone, for this opportunity. If I had to leave with something, it would be every great every great dream begins with a dreamer, right? We all had a dream, and we just put it into fruition. And with our outside resources, we was able to make our dream a reality. Um, yes, and my social handle, Pure Legacy _INC. We are here. We're here to stay, and we
Wow.
belong here.
Can you
Um,
spell legacy? Because it's not spelled like the
yes,
regular.
Pure Legacy. PureLegacy.
Thank,
PureLegacy.org. Thank you.
thank you, Quasia. Do I want to call on anybody?
I'll go next.
Okay.
Um, my advice to formerly impacted individuals or those that may even be facing incarceration. Life is not over if you're facing incarceration. Uh, my dream was to be a federal defense attorney, and that was read even during my sentencing. And
Mm.
though I end up doing 5 years federal sentencing, Alderson was going to prison, even though it was a bad situation. It was one of the biggest and one of the best things that happened in actually lining me up with my purpose in life, and that is to help people. It started with in front of the gym meeting Jamila with the book, and then it led to getting out here. Like, I know I want to advocate, thinking I was advocating, and then I started joining cohorts, and I end up joining Faces. Signed up for it when I first got out and got in last year, and got a call from Trisha. I was like, I don't know if I want to do it now, and end up doing it. And when I say that changed my life as far as teaching me how to speak, and when I say, Topeka, that cohort was beneficial in giving me that push to speak and to actually not be afraid, I can honestly say you all are really doing what I heard you all were doing in prison. Because you get out and you hear that you all are doing these things, contact these people, they'll help you. But you all have really paved the way for those like me. And, because of that, hey, I'm next to start helping those and giving back and creating a blueprint. So don't give up, you all. Don't give up on getting your children back. Don't let that define anything. Just keep going.
Mm.
Oh, God bless. Thank you so much. And do you want to leave your social or your website?
Yes,
What
I'm
is
sorry. My website is 13th13th liberation.com. My Facebook is just my name, Marsha King, and it's also Fanatic Reformer on Instagram, just Marsha King on TikTok.
TikTok? I gotta get my life together. Okay. Mary Kay?
I guess one thing I live with is that they might have winged me, but they didn't kill me. And in fact, the other week when I was having a conversation about, potentially running again for office, I was told that, well, you can't win. And I looked him in the face and I said, well, guys, you know what? You told me that 15 years ago that I couldn't win. And guess what? I won 63-37. So
Right.
nothing personal, but I don't really care what you think.
Yes.
And I've got a mission, I've got a message that has to get out there, and I'm going to carry it through. Now, for everybody else, if they need any accounting assistance, please feel free to get a hold of me because I love helping people. I want to see people be successful. I actually absolutely enjoy being part of that. Best way to get a hold of me is on my cell phone, but also my email address, which is mkrlakota, because that's where I went to high school, LAKOTA @gmail.com. So right now it's tax season for all of us, but hey, I'll make time to get a hold of you.
Thank you. I
So,
completely forgot you were a CPA. You're not just.
I'm not a CPA
Oh,
anymore. But
okay.
see, they took my initials away, but they didn't suck my knowledge out of
That's
me.
right. Say
So,
that again. That's
right.
why I tell people
Please.
all the time when they're a lawyer, you're always a lawyer. It doesn't matter.
that's
So
right.
that's right. So you are a CPA in my eyes, and I
There
will
you go.
tell you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And like I said, they didn't take a vacuum to my head and go, whoops, we're taking this all out. So
And that's the beauty of knowledge, right? You can't take that
exactly.
away. Once you have, you can't take it away. Dr. Davis.
Wow. So I'm just so full because I feel the spirit of God in this room. So it's like his presence is just so, 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 so heavy. And I'm just want to make sure I'm saying the right thing, right? But the words I want to leave folks with is nothing is impossible and nothing is too hard for God, right? I want you to take the L that you have been given and make sure you make it into a perfect W, right? And how do we do this? You just walking into your purpose, really, really asking God for assistance to this journey. Find out your strengths. What are your core values and what are your strengths? Really do some self-exploration because it's not just about getting to the bag, it's about sustaining it, right? So I'm really happy to announce that me and Topeka has some really, really big things coming up. She was able to help me get a curriculum that I wrote in prison. It took me 5 years to write this curriculum called the Voices of Consequences Enrichment Series for Incarcerated Women. And now we've gotten it approved through the BOP. So the program's curriculum is approved to get women time off, right? All throughout the country right now. This just happened in January, off their sentences for taking this program. But now the thing is, we need facilitators. We need people to actually go into the prison to do this work. So I went today, but y'all, I can't go into all the prisons in the country. I don't got that type of back, nor do I even have that type of drive to do this work. So I need y'all. I need women who have been through the system, who want to go back in, who want to get paid for their work, who want to be facilitators to learn that. I also want to give, because I know that in this season, it's time for me to give back to my people. And just to lastly, like Topeka, please don't close your hands. Understand that God wants to give you the overflow, because it takes resources to create change. I'm going to say that for the people in the back. Resources for people to create change. So we don't want money just to have money to look good. Now, I like a couple nice things, but I give my money back, right? I need that money to circulate that money back into society, and we all need it. That's why we need y'all to become entrepreneurs. We need y'all to make money. We need y'all to be successful so we can put our pot together and help our sisters and our brothers that are justice impacted. So I ask you to ask God this one thing: what is my purpose? What is it that you have for me? What's the business? What is the thing that you're giving me? And allow him to birth that in you so you can become your greatest self.
All right. Well, this is I'm not even gonna say was. This is such a powerful conversation for our women, empower women, empowered women, empower women. And I know this is going to be a series. So, big shout outs to Trish Lewis, who's our Faces of Women in Prison program director, and to Starling Thomas, who's our comms director, and Rabia Muhammad, and all the people at the Ladies of Hope Ministries. I'm grateful for this conversation this evening. I know that we have impacted so many listeners, and people are feeling really, really charged. I feel that, Jamila, you will get a lot of facilitators.
Please, I need y'all.
Because it is so, so important in order to get this. And you did hear all of these sisters who will take this program inside of prison will get First Step Act credit toward their early release. It has been approved for good time credit. That is like unheard of. But God does the impossible, right? So please, we do need facilitators. As you know, there are federal women's prisons all over the country. We're starting there because it's been approved there, but once we have facilitators in every state, we will also be taking the program to the Department of Corrections in that state to get it also put, so there are other opportunities. And you did hear, you will get paid. So there are multiple streams of income. Please make sure that you understand whatever you're doing now, it does not mean that you don't have to do this too. And so I think that it's a great opportunity, because the program, while Jamila gave it to me while we were incarcerated, because she already had her books in the library, it is something that you can use to begin your own healing journey personally, while also being able to give back, mentor, and facilitate other people as well. So any information, you reach out to info@thelohm.org. We will reply and make sure that you can sign up. I believe we'll be taking applications soon for people to be able to apply to get this program. Not only will you be able to have this program to be able to get a job to go into corrections, but you'll also get a certificate from Seton Hall
University. Yeah.
So that is also fantastic, because you will have an accredited university certification in a course that you will be able to teach with inside prisons and get paid. So how awesome is that? But again, I think everything that we try to do, we try to make sure that it does have an end game, which is for you to be able to be sustainable and successful and to have your time. Because, truth be told, entrepreneurship is exhausting. And it does take a lot of hard work to do and to continue to move. But we are trying to make it easier for you all. So super excited. Yes, LOHM will be at the Reentry Conference in April. Shout out to Judith Negron for letting us know about that in Florida. So we'll make sure that everybody will have the opportunities on this call to be there, and super excited. But again, we can have this conversation more and more. If you all want to hear more conversations like this, let us know. so we can continue on with this series. But thank you all, Naquasia, Marsha, Mary Kay, and Jamila.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here this evening. God bless you all. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. This is really exciting, and I just know there's nothing but great things ahead. So, good night.
Good night. Thank
Good night.
you.
Thank you.